Hello and welcome back to another AP3 video. And in today's video, we're going to be going over SAT math problems, more specifically circle questions. It is important to know that the only things that the SAT reference gives you is the measurement of degrees of a full circle, which is 360, and the measurement of radians of the full circle, which is 2 pi, and the equations to find the area and the volume of a full circle. What they don't give you is to convert degrees to radians and radians to degrees. They don't give you the equation of a full circle. And what they don't give you what happens when there's a tangent line in a full circle. That's a lot of concepts, but we're going to go all of those here today, right now. The question shows the following. An angle has a measure of 16 pi divided by 15 radians. What is the measure of the angle in degrees? Now, you cannot use decimals for this question. So unless you do the calculations, but to use the actual graph, you cannot use it. So you need to know these concepts that we're going to go over right now. Now, you might be asking, how can we convert radians into degrees and degrees to radians? Well, you can using this formula. So if you want to convert radians to degrees as given, what we do, we pick anything, let's say like 5 pi divided by 1, multiplied by 180 degrees divided by pi, and that gives you 5 multiplied by 180 degrees. And if we're converting something from degrees into radians, we do the opposite. So let's say if I have 5 multiplying by 180 degrees, I actually divide it by 180 and multiply by pi, which gives you 5 pi, right? So those are the ways to convert from radians to degrees and degrees into radians. Now for this question, they're asking us, they gave us radians. So we do 16 pi divided by 15 radians. Now they're asking us, what is the measure of the angle in degrees? So in this question, we want to obviously multiply by 180 and divide it by pi. So we would get 16 pi divided by 15 multiplied by 180 degrees divided by pi. And if you grab a calculator and if you put all those numbers, because Decimals gives you a calculator, or you can use your other calculator that you can use during the test. But if you do 16 divided by 15, and then you multiply that to 180, you multiply it to 180 because that's like what the equation gives you. Sorry, this one's taking a really long time. You should be getting 192 degrees as your answer. But let's say they do give you 192, but you want to know what is the measure of radians, and you want to convert that to degrees. So we do the opposite. So if the angle measure is 192, all I have to do is literally do the opposite. Divide it by 180 degrees, and then multiply it by pi, which the angle measure is canceled out. And then in the other example, the pi's cancel out. And then we're left with the angle measure of 192 divided by 180 degrees pi. Oh, I'm sorry, the degrees cancel out, but the radians or pi stays. And you should be getting 16 pi divided by 15 because it's the equivalent amount. And that is the answer. Now let's do the same concept but a trickier question. The angle measure of r is 2 pi divided by 3 radians. The angle measure of t is 5 pi divided by 12 greater than the angle measure of r. What is the angle measure of t in degrees? Now there's a lot of things that this question gives you. So let's go over every single thing that's given. We're given the angle measure of r, which is 2 pi divided by 3 radians. So 2 pi over 3 radians. And they tell you that the angle measure of t is in degrees, because that's what we're looking for. So what we want to do is convert both 2 pi divided by 3 and 5 pi divided by 12 and convert that into degrees. So if we do 2 pi divided by 3 and convert that into degrees, so we multiply that by 180 divided by pi, the pi's cancel out, and then we're left with 360 over 3, which gives us the angle measure of 120 of r. And they tell you the following. The angle measure of t is 5 pi divided by 12 radians greater than the angle measure of r. So the angle measure r, we add that by the angle measure of t that is greater, which is 5 pi divided by 12, and we add it by 120 that we solved when we convert the 2 pi over 3 radians to degrees. We add the ones that's saying it's greater by 5 pi divided by 12 to look for the angle measure of t. So we're given that the angle measure of t is 5 pi divided by 12 greater than r. So we just add what's greater by 120. So we convert 5 pi divided by 12 and multiply that by 180 and divide by pi. We're left with 900 angle measure divided by 12. Now, unless you know how to solve it mentally, if you use a calculator, you should get 75. So all we have to do now is just add 120 and add the angle measure that is greater than r, which is 75, and we would get 120 degrees, or angle measure, plus 75 degrees, which equals 195 degrees. And the answer here is C, right? Now, if I were to tell you it's less, if t is 5 pi divided by 12 less than r, we do the opposite. We would do 120 minus 75, which actually, no, I did a mistake. We would do 195 divided by 75, which equals 120, and that is the answer if it was less than r. Okay, before we start the actual question, let's go over what's written right now. The equation of a circle. The equation of a circle is written as parentheses h minus x squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now r squared is radius, or r is radius, and then the x and y is the center of the circle. And it's important to remember that because the other questions that we're going to go over requires those skills. Now the question shows the following. The graph of x squared plus x plus y squared equals 199 divided by 2. And the y plane is a circle. What is the length of the circle's radius? Now you might be asking, can't we just do 199 divided by 2 and do the square root? Because it's the r radius squared? No. Because this whole question is not written in the equation of a circle. So what are we given then? We're given the points, or the equation, x squared plus y squared plus y, which equals 199 divided by 2. Now you want to look for the perfect form, or the parentheses version of the x squared and the plus y squared. So an x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So what's written over here? We want to make this huge equation that we're given and condense it into that equation that's given, that we went over the equation of a circle. But how can we do that? We got to use this formula or rule called b divided by 2 squared in order to make the equation happen and then condense it down to make the perfect square root. So we would do x squared plus x plus blank, because we got to use we got to make a quadratic equation, plus y squared plus y equals, again, 199 divided by 2. So now it's written in a quadratic equation. What do I mean by that? Well, x squared is a, x is b, and then plus whatever value that we're going to look for is c. Same thing goes with the y values. Oh, I didn't write it here. Plus blank equals 192. So it'd be a, b, and c. Let me make that a little bit more prettier. So now that we know what's b, we can plug that into the rule or formula that's given. So for the x values, if x equals 1, you would do the following: 1 divided by 2, or 1/2, and then find the square version of it. So we square 1, it's 1. If we do 2 squared, that equals 4. So the c value equals 1/4. Whatever we add on the right side, we add on the left side. But let's do y, and then we do the adding. So b and the y squared plus y equals 1. Same thing. So 1 divided by 2. They gave you the same number, 1/4. So c on the y values equals 1/4. And now let's rewrite that in a different color. Where you get x squared plus x plus 1/4 plus y squared plus y plus 1/4 equals 199 divided by 2. And because we added 1/4 We added two 1/4 on the left side, and we gotta add it on the right side, which equals 2 divided by 4, or we can rewrite that as 199 divided by 2 plus the equivalent of 2/4 is 1/2, which equals 100. So we can rewrite the equation as this. So the perfect form, or the perfect square root of x squared plus x plus 1/4 and y squared plus y plus 1/4 is x plus 1/2 squared plus y plus 1/2 squared, which equals 100. And because it's written in the equation of a circle and they're asking us for the radius, all we have to do is now get 100, find the square root of it, and it equals 10. And that's how you find the answer. Let's do a similar question. X squared plus 20x plus y squared plus 16y equals negative 20. The equation above defines a circle in an x and y plane. What are the coordinates of the center of the circle? Now we gotta make this into the equation of a circle, and the coordinates is just the x and the y value of the circle of the equation. So EQ of circle, or this is just the center as well. So let's do the same process that we did on the other equation, or the other question, to this question. We would do x squared plus 20x plus blank plus y squared plus 16y blank equals negative 20. And remember, we do the blanks because we want to look for the perfect form, or we got to look for the condensed version of that equation. So we use the same rule that we used in the other example, which was b divided by 2 squared for the b values of both the x and the y coordinates, or the y values. So in this example, b equals 20. So what we would do 20 divided by 2 squared, which equals 100, because 20 divided by 2 equals 10. 10 squared equals 100. So we add 100 on the x side. And for the y side, we would do 16 divided by 2 squared, which gives us 64, because 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared equals 64. So now we got to add that on the right side. So we do negative 120 plus 100, and then plus 64, we would get, so we do 100 divided by 20, which equals 80. 80 plus 64 is 144. So now what we do, we look for the perfect form, or like the condensed version of x squared plus 20x plus 60 and y squared plus 16y plus 64. I gotta write that. Plus 64. And if we use and if we find it, we would find x plus 10 squared plus y plus 8 squared, and then equals 144. And they're asking us for the x coordinates. So what we do, we look for the x and the y value. So x just equals x plus 10 equals 0. So x equals negative 2. And for the y value, we look for y the same way. Y plus 8 equals 0. So y equals negative 8. So the center of this question is x. Oh, I'm sorry. Is the following. It's just negative 10 and negative 8. And the only answer that has those two values is B. I either made a mistake here. The x actually equals negative 10, not negative 2. I don't know why I wrote that. And that's how you find the answer to this question. Let's do a similar question, but the opposite. You'll see what I mean. A circle in the xy plane has a center at negative 5, comma 2, and has a radius of 9. An equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are constants. What is the value of c? Now, in order to solve this question, we need to rewrite it in the equation of a circle, what's given already. So we can rewrite that as the following. X, oh, not comma, no, that's my fault. X plus 5 squared minus, or plus actually, y minus 2 squared, which equals 81. Now, let's expand both sides. So we would want to do x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 5 plus y minus 2 plus y minus 2, which equals 81. 81 doesn't change so far. So let's do the x side. X multiplied by x is x squared. We just use FOIL. X multiplied by 5 is plus 5x. We do the same thing. 5 plus x, or 5 multiplied by x is plus 5x. And if 5 multiplied by 5, we get plus 25. Combine like terms, we get x squared plus 10x plus 25. Let's do the right side now. Y multiplied by y is plus y squared, and a y multiplied by negative 2 is negative 2y, and again, negative 2 multiplied by y is negative 2y, and a negative 2 multiplied by negative 2 equals positive 4. The two negatives equals a positive, sorry. So we combine like terms, we get plus y squared minus 4y plus 4, and it equals 81. So now let's rewrite it the way that the equation of the circle is written in the question, which is x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. So we would get x squared plus y squared plus 10x, which a equals 10, if they were asking for that, plus by, which is minus 4, and b equals negative 4. But now they give us c. But in order to make all of the left side equals 0, we got to move the 81 on the left side. So we subtract 81, and we combine the like terms of the right side. So what would that be? We would get, I'm gonna write it over here in pink. We would get 29 minus 81. Now, if you don't know how to do it mentally, you can use a calculator. So 29 minus 81, that gives you negative 52. And then minus 52, which equals 0. And they're asking us for value c with a number that doesn't have an x or y value. So it's just c equals negative 52. Okay, before we start this question, let's go over a circle with the tangent line. So a circle with the tangent line looks like the following. We have a circle. Oh, I don't know why this keeps moving, sorry. We have a circle, and at a point, let's say x, y, with the radius of r. Now the radius of r will have the same slope if it's here, here, or even here, because they all meet at the middle. So the radius has its own slope. And when there's a tangent line, it intersects at one point, so it'll kind of look like this. That's how tangent will look like. Let's say points A and B. But what does that mean exactly? What it basically means is that when it's perpendicular, or a perpendicular, how perpendicular looks is that both two straight lines that make like an addition symbol or multiplication symbols, I like to call it, like the green side that I show here. But what does that necessarily mean? Then that means that the slope of radius, or r, is the reciprocal of the tangent line. So what does that mean? Let's say r equals 1 over 4. That means that tangent, let's say line B equals the reciprocal, so negative 4. That's how tangent line works if it crosses at one point in a circle. I hope that makes sense. So, and we need to use that for the following question. And it asks the following. A circle in the xy plane has a center at negative 4, 6. So let's draw that. We have a circle and a center point of negative 4, negative 6. And the line K has a tangent line of points negative 7, negative 7. So around down here probably. Negative 7, negative 7. And then there's a tangent line right over here. So tangent line, and then it's K right here. Let me do it a little bit bigger. I don't know why it's doing that. Sometimes it glitches, so. There's a line right there. K, negative 7, and negative 7. And they ask you the slope of line K. So slope of line K is the reciprocal of the line in the center. And to look for the slope in the center, we just do y2 minus y1. So the negative 4, negative 6 are the x2 and x, or y1, sorry, or x2, sorry. And the negative 7 is the x1 and y1. And if we rewrite that, we get negative 6 plus 7 divided by negative 4 plus 7, right? This is the slope formula. So y2 minus y1, and then x2 minus x1, which then gives you m slope. I hope that makes sense. So once we add everything, we get the following. We get 1 over 3. So positive 1 over 3, and that's the slope of the center. So 1 over 3 is the slope of the radius. And like we did it on the tangent example, if r equals 1 over 3, the reciprocal, or the slope of line K, is just a reciprocal of the radius, which is negative 3. And that will be A is our answer. So that's what happens when there's a tangent line in a circle. And it's important to note that the only look for the slope for radius r is to get the point negative 7, 7, or x1 plus, or x1, y1, and then get the center of negative 4, negative 6, which is x2 and y2, putting in the slope equation to get the answer. I hope that helps. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.